637, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis here along with Johnny B. Jones in for Ken Weaver. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News. EJ Haust is joining us as well. And EJ, thanks for being here. For folks not watching Super Talk TV, I was flailing my arms around as I'm pointing to people doing all of the half-hour introductions, and I managed to throw my pen across the room. So I'm now penniless. But anyway, EJ, how are you today?
Good morning. Doing well.
All right. So a couple of things. First of all, there's a lot I want to talk to you about. You are media savvy. You were a talk show host in Minnesota. You've done a lot of reporting and that kind of a thing. So the debate has finally been scheduled, and Dana Bash over there at CNN is going to do the interview. I'm going to talk about the interview. Dana Bash is going to do the interview on CNN. It's going to be tomorrow, Thursday. Then it's going to air tomorrow night. Plenty of time to clean it up. So, two-part question. Number one, you think Dana Bash is actually going to ask the follow-up questions and ask relevant questions? Will she hold Kamala Harris's feet to the fire? That's number one. And number two, why does Kamala Harris need to bring an emotional support animal like Tim Walz?
Is that a joke? No, Dana Bash is not going to ask the follow-up questions. I think that goes without saying. It'll be very well edited and fluffy and beautiful. They might throw like a couple of little bones to Republicans just to stir up some clicks, because otherwise, why bother? But I don't anticipate seeing anything exciting or new in this interview. I will tell you, if I were interviewing her, though, my very first question, or interviewing them, I guess, my very first question would be, how did you form your political philosophy? Who are the people who influenced you most, right? Where did you create this worldview? I think it's important for both of them to answer that question. Walz, we've talked about ad nauseum now. He's been to China very many times. He's been interviewed for local newspapers in Nebraska and in Minnesota, expressing his love of the Chinese system and how, quote unquote, everybody eats rice. So I think that's important to get from him. What's his worldview? How do they see, the politics of the day? But then also for Kamala, like, her dad is a known Marxist professor. Did he have any influence whatsoever on her political worldview? Those are the questions that the American people need to hear. But I guess we're probably going to hear, like, how was it living in the White House with Joe Biden?
Oh, yeah.
I doubt it's going to be anything other than fluffy.
Are you worried about Donald Trump, the fact that he's a threat to democracy? I mean, I know that that's going to happen. One of the things... The question answers itself, and all they have to do is say, yes, Dana, you're right. One of the things that I thought was interesting, I did cover this yesterday, but I'll get your opinion on it. One of the stories that's out there on Kamala Harris, because she's not really talking. So there's all this news that needs to be filled. And one of the questions out there is, where is she really from? Because she was born in Oakland, but she moved to Berkeley at a very young age, and that's where she was raised. The difference between Oakland, as I pointed out yesterday, the difference between Oakland and Berkeley is night and day, because back then, Oakland was, a working class neighborhood. I don't know about lower working class, whatever, but it was a working class neighborhood. Berkeley is just... it's where all the liberal, progressive hippies hang out. There's a big difference between the two. Like
Marxist professors, like her dad would hang out there. She also spent a good portion of her upbringing in Canada, from my understanding. So, again, not exactly a constitutional republic, right? So wouldn't it be nice to know kind of how she formed her opinions? What did her mom believe in? What is her current sister? Anybody ask her sister? What does she believe in? These would be really helpful questions to have answered, so that we can figure out where they're standing from, like where they're making their decisions from. Something else to point out. June 24th was the last interview with Kamala Harris, and that was before Biden dropped out. So we haven't heard from her since she was boasting about how great Joe Biden is.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if Dana Bash actually asks any follow-up questions. Moving on from there, I want to talk about the big story that we had yesterday, where it's still relevant today. A lot of people talking about the fact that Mark Zuckerberg came out with is a letter, and he sent it to Jim Jordan, admitting that they censored conservatives related to, of course, the laptop from hell and also COVID discussions. And so this is stuff that we've all known. We've known it for a couple of years now, I think, with the Twitter files and so forth. But yeah, conservatives knew this was going on for quite some time. But he finally came out, Zuckerberg did, and he said, we're not going to do this again. And the Biden administration really kind of cajoled us or forced us to do this. Why do you think Zuckerberg came out with this letter now?
I think we can probably come to some pretty easy conclusions. One, he's trying to get ahead of a whistleblower or something else that's about to pop in the news. Something else is going to come out. That's a plausible theory. Mm-hmm. I also think he's seeing the political winds. So if you think about the kind of information that he sees, the data he has on every single American, he's probably seeing where his business can make more money. And right now, if conservatives are leaving the platform, if they're not using the platform to engage in news activities, if they're not purchasing things from people who are running advertising, if they're not purchasing advertising themselves, this is probably more of a business decision. I thought about this pretty intently yesterday and did quite a bit of research, but then I realized, who cares why he did it? Show us the receipts. Let's see the emails. Let's get the names. I want names named. I want to hear who ordered the pressure campaign, who sent the emails, because those are the people that we should really be digging into right now. So as much as I want to appreciate, Josh Hawley and other Republicans who did do a good job grilling Zuckerberg on Capitol Hill, in 2021, even as early as last January. That's all terrific, and we can do a mini victory lap here. But let's go ahead and take this to the next step. Ask the follow-up question to your point. Who wrote the email? Who ordered the pressure campaign? And if we don't know that, then who cares why Zuckerberg did it?
Well, in the laptop literally changed the course of the election. EJ Haust is joining us here. And EJ, I want to play for you. You may remember this. This is Josh Hawley, and he was grilling Alejandro Mayorkas about just this.
We have example after example of this administration coordinated, apparently, according to a federal court, by your agency, pressuring, coercing social media companies to engage in censorship. Is that constitutional?
That is unequivocally false.
Is what the emails show.
It is unequivocally false, Senator.
You are not pressuring the big tech companies to take down accounts. You are not meeting with them to ask them to censor on your behalf.
That is correct. We are not.
So, listen, I understand that this administration lies, EJ. I do understand that. I don't know if he was under oath or not, or what the legal ramifications of this is, but clearly Alejandro Mayorkas was lying to Senator Josh Hawley.
Yeah, absolutely. This is just, it's silly. Again, even Josh Hawley, though, has the emails. They have the evidence. Release it publicly. Let us know who ordered the campaign. It sounds like Mayorkas was head of the department, but who are the people? Was anybody fired? I don't think so. This brings up a huge issue, too, with Section 230 and the Communications and Decency Act of 1996.
Yep.
It's really vague, but the short version is that it grants immunity from civil liability for internet platforms like X and social media and things like this. This is a world I know very well from my day job. And it treats them as treats them as aggregators, essentially, where the users create the content. And they're not supposed to curate content, and that's what gives them that immunity badge, right? Other internet publishers like news organizations, private websites, blogs, things like that, they are curators of content, and therefore they're responsible or can be held liable for the content on their platforms. Facebook seems to be getting it both ways.
Yeah.
They seem to be curating the content and deciding what shows up in a feed, but also getting this immunity because they say that they can't possibly keep track of all of the content.
Let me ask you this. Now let's go to the debate. You've got Trump and Harris. They're battling over the rules, and the big battle seems to be, over this muted mic. Now, yesterday, I can make the argument both ways as to whether or not it's good or bad for Donald Trump to have that muted mic. And so he wants the muted mic, I think. And Kamala Harris doesn't. And so apparently he's been battling with the Democrats. Harris is yet to say that she'll accept the rules of Donald Trump. She also wanted to sit down and she wanted notes. But let's drill down onto the muted mic. You're very, savvy as far as, broadcasts go and debates and, the back and forth and that kind of a thing. Do you think it's to Donald Trump's benefit to have a muted mic, to have the mics muted?
If only for the reason that she won't be able to have one of those moments where she says, I'm speaking.
Yes.
Where she likes to look real, I don't know,
authoritative and
wrong or something.
Yeah.
I don't know. This seems very strange. It's my understanding, though, that they did agree to the rules at this point. I believe Trump put something out saying that they've come to some sort of an agreement, but I can't find that on Truth Social. I'm scrolling me right now. But yeah, I think he probably doesn't care one way or the other. He speaks off the cuff. He doesn't need notes. He's happy to stand. He doesn't really have problems. He agreed flat out to the rules right from the get-go. And she seems to be the one that's panicking over this.
Yeah.
And I have to say, if they were really winning by what all these polls say they are, 5 points here, 3 points there, 7 points in Pennsylvania, whatever, if all of that were true, the Harris campaign wouldn't worry about it, right? They wouldn't be fussing over these things. They would just go ahead and put her out there and let her ride the wave, so to speak. But I think they're scrambling in a pretty big way.
I think they're realizing, I don't know if you heard my previous segment. My previous segment, I spoke about the New York Times, Wall Street Journal, The Hill, and some of these other outlets. Do you see the media starting to turn on Kamala Harris?
No, I don't think it's a turn. I think it's just a clickbait. I think they need the readership between now and November. I think it has more to do with their advertisers saying, hey, we need a little bit of balance here. Remember, everything is about the money. Follow the money, and you'll always find the agenda. Then my mom used to say that, and I have to say she was a pretty smart woman to instill that in me early.
All right, EJ, how can folks find you on Twitter?
Yeah, please find me on X at ERINHAUST.